Hey guys, so I built an entire multi-channel AI lead nurturing system that is super easy to set up. In this video, I'll explain exactly how it works step by step so you can download these templates using the link in the description and start using it yourself. I'll first show you a demo and then walk you through the entire system. Alright, so just for a bit of context, this whole operation starts off at the opt-in of this lead within this fitness or gym setup pipeline. So upon this opt-in, we then extract the information from the lead, which then allows us to actually begin nurturing in the first place. So without this, there is no nurturing system. So in this scenario, we are giving out a fitness plan, and then we just have a few easy questions for the lead to answer in fill out form. So the first one is, why do you want it? We're just going to say that we want to lose weight. And then are we wanting to join the gym in the next month or so, which we can just click no, I'm busy. I'll show you why that matters later. Then this is where we put in our name. And then it asked me like what the best way to reach out to me about this stuff regarding this fitness plan would be. I can just say text, and then based on that, it asks for my phone number instead of my email, which I can just chuck in here. So now I've submitted it, and this scenario here has run. And if we check here in our CRM for gym leads, then we have a new lead, and our information is already in here. And then from that point on, you can set up whatever you want. So an automatic, fitness plan that they get after this opt-in, now that you've gotten the information. I didn't do that part because I wanted to keep it simple. But what we can do now is trigger our new scenario, which is going to nurture them based on whether or not they've become a new lead or not. Now I can click run once on this automation. And since we clicked I'd like to get stronger, it'll go through this path. And since I'd like to receive a text, it went through this path over here. And as you can see, I received a text over here saying to try out the 7-day meal prep plan that hits 1.4K calorie a day. And it's saying about this 7-day meal prep plan and asking me to reply yes if I want the full guide, as you can see over here. So if we check into our CRM here, you'll see that we have now updated this last nurture field, which is today. And this lead magnets list full of strength and weight loss programs, we will have seen that we've sent all of the last or latest weight loss programs. But what we're going to do now is we're going to try that again except for email. So we're going to do the exact same thing. So if we had a meal prep plan, which was this one here, so this was the content that we just sent, we're going to change the status to not sent. And then we're going to come over here, and instead of text, we're going to change this field here, and we're going to add our email. So you can see the formula here just disappeared as I deleted my phone number. And if I add in my email instead, we get an email channel over here instead. And if I just delete that, I'm artificially doing this, but I want to show like the system that we haven't nurtured this field as though it was an email prospect. And we can run the entire thing again, but this time you'll see that instead of going into the SMS field, it's going to go this way through the email and then update through this email branch over here. And then here's the email that we just got. So your 7-day fat burning meal prep guide. So you see that not only does it contact me again, but it adheres to the format of things. And instead of a short text asking for a reply back, it's instead just sending me like these regular emails, and it signs off as Jimmy over here down here. So it's the exact same content for an email format, and everything else in the CRM is updated as it was before. If you haven't quite picked it up yet, this is exactly what we're doing. So upon the opt-in and fill out forms, we're adding the lead to the Airtable, which is then fed in a certain format to Make.com. Now in Make.com, we have a certain logic that, of course, with the use of AI, allows us to either send SMS nurtures or just straight up email nurtures, and the AI helps us to adhere to the different formats and make sure that the same lead isn't actually being nurtured in the same exact way with the same information constantly, because we have a very solid system back in Airtable, which I'll show you guys once we get into it, that allows us to do this very systematically with no disruptions. So I first want to show you the opt-in page here that I made on fill out forms. It took me about 10 minutes to make this, probably even less, probably about 5. But essentially I did a few drop downs, and in these drop downs I just scrolled through here, and then you can pick like kind of the values that you want. I did a few of those like so, and then we have the options tab over here, which we can actually put in like the values that we would want to actually be displayed. And then at one point it actually branches off into, you see that there's this shade part here, because depending on what they tell us regarding their text or email, I add in a condition step. So whenever I put a field here that has this value, this hidden thing here, it means that I've gone into the logic side of things. And then in this condition side of things, I can click show when, and then say when the last block equals text, then that means that the phone number drop down or the phone number field will come up. And the same thing for the email. When I go to edit conditional, if the result of that last question equals email, then this one will appear as well. So that's how I did that to make it very flexible. And again, this took me 5-7 minutes to make, and this was the final result, which I was very happy with and wanted to proceed from that point. And now, from this point, we feed everything into our Airtable, right? And this actually happens within the first Make.com scenario, which is this one here. Now, what I did is I made a fill out forms connection. You can make one just by adding a permission into fill out forms. If you'd like to create a new webhook to watch out for new form submissions, all you need to do is click add. And then from that point, you can click this drop down here, which will show you all your forms that you want to receive automatically to then do stuff with in Make.com. But in this very scenario, you can see that it's very, very simple. I have this filter here that only passes through when it equals no, I'm busy. So remember at the demo, I told you that it was going to be a very important step later on in the video. Well, this is it. This means that if the value of, so are you looking to join us in the gym to reach this goal in the next month? If the value of that equals no, I'm busy, it means that they are not a direct lead, you know, that we are expecting in the next month or so. So because of that, it's relevant for us to actually be able to nurture them. And on the other hand, it wouldn't be relevant for us to nurture someone who we can be expecting in the next month or so. But in this case, it makes sense for us to only get in leads that are not going to be coming the next month, so that we can instead nurture them. And this way, it'll decrease the likelihood that they actually opt out or change their mind about coming to the gym in the first place. But once it passes through this filter, which is the only kind of like more complex thing in this automation, it goes into this Airtable here. We are referencing base CRM for gym leads. What we're doing here is essentially pulling in all the different information that we get from the opt-in, and it goes straight into the Airtable in order for us to see that information live, okay? So pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you the base now, the Airtable base. Again, we have very simple information, but you can see here that we have two different tables. One is table 1, which I should have named something like leads coming in. So here we have the name, the contact details, whether it's email or phone number, depending on what they replied with, the answer of what their goal was, so either lose weight, or you can see down here, I'd like to get stronger. And now this here is a formula that I asked the Airtable AI to make me, which was just to return email if the email field existed back over here, and then return text if the phone number field existed. So obviously we can't have both, so this channel field here is later going to tell our AI what to actually adhere the format of our information to, so that we can then contact them. And then this last nurture field here, which obviously comes up as blank as soon as they're added in. But once we run the next automation, which I'll show you guys in a minute, but that's table number 1. And then you can see that table number 2 is lead magnets over here. And what I want to touch on that's very, very important in this lead magnets field is that there are multiple offers or mini offers or whatever you want to call it. And then you have different classes. So we have the weight loss class and then the strength class, which all of them are filtered by clicking this filtered by type. So in this all offers pitch is where you would dump everything and kind of manage and overlook all of the base. And you can see here we have different columns. So the column here is the name of the offer. Then the type is the weight loss or strength, which is manually configured. And then the content here is just the information that you actually want to display, which will be personalized later on. But I did all of this like AI generated from Claude. And the impressive thing is that we later take some of this information. So for example, this day 1 to 7 meal plan, breakfast, Greek yogurt, and then tracking calories, you know, we have lunch, we have dinner, and then snacks in between the day, prep tips to cook everything. So this is stuff that we kind of chucked in from Claude. And you can notice there's no real format to this. You can't really just send this over to someone when you're trying to nurture them. And then a status field here, which is either sent or not sent. And the default of this is not sent, obviously, but then once we send it, we then go into this field here and update everything to sent. So that's exactly what I did here. If you're wondering on how to create a new view, all that you need to do is create new, and then you have these different sort of views that you can sort them under. But from that point, you can see that that's pretty much all of my Airtable done. which means that we can then move on to this main automation. Now, this is something that may look very complex, but it's actually very intuitive and easy and straightforward. So let me just walk you through a few key concepts that you need to be aware of. So firstly, we have this webhook trigger here from Airtable, which again, you need to make a connection. Now from these permissions, I have configured it to run, in this case, every day at a certain time. You can change how often you want it to trigger based on all of these configurations over here. But this is essentially searching for records within our leads database. And what we're going to be searching for is multiple records of those leads. And we're going to be outputting all of these fields, so the name, the email, all that information, given that it adheres to these filters. So the automation only goes forward from this place if number one is that either the day of the last nurture was over 2 weeks from today. If we add 14 days to the last nurture, which is 2 weeks, and the current date is still greater than today, then we will know that it has been over 2 weeks since the last nurture. In the same way, we will know that they haven't been nurtured at all if last nurture is equal to blank or even does not exist. So from that point, we then hit this router over here, which is where we find other filters. And in this filter, the weight loss one is only triggered if the wants to field. You can see over here that in my case, it equals I want to lose weight. And we just hard coded this in here. So if it equals I want to lose weight, then we proceed to that branch. And similarly, we go to this filter over here on the other side saying if it equals I'd like to get stronger, which is again what they would reply in the opt-in page way back. Then we go through this branch over here. But overall, what you'll come to find is that these two fields here, these two branches are very, very similar. And the only thing that varies between them is this next step here. So over here, I have one module that is pulling in the offers from that weight loss category that I showed you way back. So over here, if we go into offers and weight loss, it's only pulling in information from here so that we know for a fact that we are pulling in information that adheres to what they actually want to receive. At the same time, the difference between the other module and this one, which is really the only difference, is that the strength part of things is that if we want the strength lead magnets, then we can go over here and then onto this grid view instead and then pull in all of the not sent. So I'll just show you guys here real quick. Not only do we pull in any lead magnet, it has to equal not sent. So that's why I put in this formula over here. We have the same thing up on this module where the field of status must equal not sent. Because again, we don't want to send the exact same nurture message to our prospects. And the limit of that can only be one. So we just get any that have not been sent to actually send to the prospects. So from this point on, I'm just going to talk about this branch that we activated to get the live data. But you can assume that everything else is done in the exact same way down over here. Okay. So in this GPT module, we have prompted it in a certain way. And I'm just going to show you that prompt really quickly. You can pause the video for all the details. So to start off, we are using the GPT 4.1 model to actually create the message. We are using the developer system message over here to say that you're an expert in helpful writing assistant, which is what we always want to start off with a system message. And then this user message here clearly outlines the job, which is to expand and elaborate on a message to nurture leads through a chosen platform based on the fitness information you're given. So the context of this is that they will receive as input the name of the lead, the chosen channel, and the name of the offer, and brief information about the offer. So here I have email guidelines, which is only going to adhere to the email format and kind of if it knows to send emails. So then we have make your CTAs relevant to what you're saying and natural sounding, output your answer in JSON with the subject line and the content of your message. And then for text guidelines, we have if the channel is text, leave the value of subject blank. And I will show you why that is in a minute. Ask to send a full workout. And then make your message 160 characters or less with no line breaks or new lines. So following this, we have kind of example messages to show the LLM what kind of results we're expecting. So this is the user data, which is the test data that comes in as input. And then the assistant message is the output of everything. So what we are telling it to do is only output a subject field if the value of the channel is an email. So because we obviously don't need a subject field to send out texts, we can see here that if the nurture is an email nurture, then the output of that, which again we are sending as an example to the LLM, should be a subject line, or a subject line should exist. So in advanced settings, the response format must be JSON object, because if the subject exists, then we are going to use that exact output in the email output. I'll show you guys that in a second, but we just got to make sure that we click JSON object and then pass JSON response. Moving on from here, which this is actually where we send each of the generated messages from the LLM. So if the channel equals email from the Airtable, then it goes down this path, which is what we triggered before. From this point, we go into this markdown node, which just makes sure that everything comes out very nicely structured. If you check out that last email, you can see here that this is clearly markdown and in a very nicely formatted way. So that's because of this exact markdown module here with these exact settings. So you can pause the video and then just copy those exact settings. And the result of which is what we output into our email module, with the email address being the one that they gave us back at the Airtable. The subject, so you can see here that because we sent an email, the subject field exists, and that's exactly what we can map in this field over here. And the content is just going to be the HTML version of the markdown, which transfers everything to look visually nice like this. And then from that point, we just update the record being in the table 1, so the leads part of everything. The record ID is going to be the value that we searched up at the very beginning of the run. So in this case, this is the exact value that we're mapping. So if I scroll out over here, if I zoom out, hover over this ID field, you can see that our webhook starts to pulsate, which means that that's where the data is coming from. That kind of helps me kind of track where my data is coming from when I have multiple modules of the same kind of platform. And then we do the exact same thing, but for our lead magnets. So to know that if our lead magnets have been sent to this particular nurture campaign, we can hover over this and then we can see that our lead magnet module is then pulsating, which means that that's where that's coming from. And then just to finalize here, I'm going to show you the SMS side of things. So same exact thing. If the channel equals text, it goes to this branch. Now what I'm using to send texts, if you're in the US or anywhere else other than New Zealand, then you likely have Twilio, and that'll be very straightforward for you to set up. But in New Zealand, we're actually not allowed to send messages under designated phone numbers. They have to be under a short code. And so I use this platform called SMS Global, which if you're in New Zealand, you definitely need to check it out. The parameters of which are only going to be within this URL here. So what I did is I called that endpoint and I have my authorization and everything, but all the content, everything that we are going to send to that endpoint comes from this URL parameter. So this is me calling the specific endpoint. And then when we get to this, we can actually send the value of the original content from ChatGPT. I just make sure that I wrap it around this encode URL function so that when it outputs as an actual SMS, we got good formatting for that as well. So again, if we zoom out, we can see that it's actually not that complicated. There's a few different routes for the automation to actually run through, but essentially it's all the same with a few slight tweaks based on the particular scenario. So that's it for the video today. As mentioned before, everything has been templated for you and you can download it using the link in the description. Let me know in the comments how this worked for you and if you had any trouble setting it up. But other than that, hope it helped.